up, Lemon Heads? Welcome back to another episode of From the Yellow Chair. I'm Emily.
And I'm Crystal.
And this week, we're going to talk about the McWilliams and Son Home Service Academy.
We all know we're struggling for good team members through recruitment and also making sure that we can retain those people once we do get them. So we're here today to just share some insight on how we made that happen for McWilliams and Son and how you can make that happen for your company. And the two gentlemen are here in the lemonade stand in person. We actually had to set up all of our mics today, so let's sip some lemonade.
Let's do it. All right, so here in the lemonade stand, we have Andrew and Jared in our studio today. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey,
How are y'all?
Good.
doing great.
Thank you for having me.
So these are the two men behind the team here. So I thought it's a really when we were talking about the Home Service Academy. So if you've been to the Lemon Seed Conference or if you've seen us speak at Service Nation or anything like that, we're always talking about the Home Service Academy because we feel like it has been such a successful game changer for the McWilliams and Son team
Absolutely,
of companies as we are. So we were just like, it would be great to hear from the people that actually make it happen. So conceptualizing something is great, but making it happen, you two guys are rock stars at that. So tell us a little bit about yourselves so our listeners know who they're listening to.
I'm Andrew. Andrew Hall is my name.
And you're on the HVAC side.
I'm on the HVAC side. I've been with McWilliams and Son almost 8 years. I started as a service technician with them, kind of worked my way up through the ranks, if you will, became a service manager, and then kind of did field support and training kind of together. And then just this last year or so, I've been doing training full time once we kind of built the academy and implemented that program.
But you had no HVAC experience when you came to McWilliams and Son.
Nope, just very minimal. I was a very handy guy, very mechanical guy, but probably thought I knew what I was working on with air conditioners. That's one of Trey's favorite stories about how he kind of discovered me.
Oh, gosh.
Was trying to work on an air conditioner, and I was wrong, and he told that story yesterday, too.
Oh, imagine that.
You're welcome, Andrew.
Yeah, it's his favorite. But, so no experience. Came through, went through a little small program with Linux, but then just came on and just picked it up really quickly.
Perfect. So HVAC was our first love.
Yep.
Right? And then we added old Jared over there.
Yeah, the second-handed person, I guess you could say. It's the plumbers.
Yeah.
They always get the short end of the stick.
Poor plumbers.
Yeah, well, so I've been in plumbing for almost 20 years. Started out in service and then moved up. And the old traditional way, the way that you moved up is you moved up into being able to do more. So if it was service, you did service for a while, then you moved into building new houses, and then small commercial, then hospitals, schools, so on and so forth. And like the larger the set of prints, the more the pay was, right?
Yep.
So if you wanted to make more, you had to learn how to handle more responsibilities. I had reached a point in my life where I was just my son was getting to that age. He was like, I am going to be a plumber. And I was like, no, you're not going to be a plumber. I don't want you to be a plumber, be anything but that. But I realized that the trade needed a change if that was to happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Every time I introduced myself to my daughter's friends, and they asked me what I did for a living, I said a plumber. You could just see it all over their face, the way their face cringed at the word plumber. You could tell that everybody just thought that a plumber was someone who ran around with a plunger.
Played with poo.
Yeah, right, played with poo. Yeah,
And had a butt crack
exactly.
hanging out.
That's terrible. It's not true. That's not true.
It's not.
Yeah.
And, so then my son's saying, hey, I want to be a plumber, but yet I know we were underpaid, unappreciated. Like I grew up in where my grandfather was a tradesman on both sides, and they lived in brand new brick homes, drove brand new trucks, and somewhere along the line, everything else quadrupled, 5 times as much even, and the wages for the tradesmen didn't. Not even how much they charged for the
Sure. It was behind the curve there. So you were working for another company.
Yes.
And decided that you just wanted into a leadership role, correct?
Well, I was going to go into business for myself.
Oh, that's
I
right,
bought
that's right.
Everything. I had everything except for some key equipment that was going to cost. I was about to take out a $25,000 loan.
Yeah.
And I was praying about it, and I was like, God, I don't want to go back into debt. It took me so long to get out of debt, and I just remember praying, and I was like, God, if there's anything you want me to do that's not this, like if this is the wrong thing, have the right thing. Like,
Lord,
just
last
come
chance.
to me.
Last chance.
Last chance. I'm signing the paper tomorrow. Yeah. And so then that next morning, I never talked to Trey before in my life, but something came across my mind, and I remember him looking into plumbing companies. And so I called him that day and I said, hey, would you be interested in hiring a master plumber? And talked to him that afternoon. He shared with me his vision, and I saw how our visions aligned. Like, he wanted to do that. He wanted to change the social stigma that goes with the trades, and wanted to make it cool again to be a plumber, cool again to be a HVAC technician.
Yeah,
And so
great.
That's how I came on.
Yeah,
That
so
was a year ago.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that was a year ago. So, and I can remember, so Trey, for those of you that are new to listening to our podcast, Trey is owner. That's my brother. He owns McWilliams and Son Heating and Air Conditioning and now plumbing here in East Texas where we are. And, speaking of the Home Service Academy, I remember the day that he was like, I've got to find a master plumber. And he kept rolling around all these different ideas in his head. And then one day I walked by there and he goes, hey, I think I hired a master plumber. And I was like, oh, who? Like, who do we know? And he's like, well, we don't know him. But, he said your name. And I was like, okay. But then everybody in the first week was like, have you met the redheaded plumber? And then Andrew, I do have to say, Andrew was young. And so contractors that are listening, you can relate to this. We had this young guy come in with all of these old school technicians that had been done the same way and didn't want to account for anything, didn't want to go to tablets, wanted to sell their own equipment. I mean, and then there was Andrew. His poor thing stuck out there, sticking out like a sore thumb, but in a good way. And I've used Andrew before when I've talked about company culture. It's really hard if you're not strong in who you are. It's really easy if you allow the bad pieces, and I hate to say that, that's what it is. The corrupt pieces, they will eventually win. Snuff out these young, intelligent, driven new technicians. And so you really have to have good control. But Andrew was a great example of somebody that just kept being diligent and kept working hard and kept outperforming. And so when he was shifting to these new roles, I think there was a little, I call it saltiness, right? They were like, I know this 20-year-old is not about to tell me.
Not a little. There was a lot. In
A lot
cases.
of salt, yes. But Andrew took it all in stride, and I think he did it with a lot of grace. And then I know Jared has a background too that's very interesting. Overcoming is a big thing here. Yep. They both have overcome things in a different way, but at the end of the day, I feel like this was such a good people to lead the Home Service Academy. And I was telling them as we were preparing for the podcast today, I said, no, I do have to tell this one story because I do take full credit for the Home Service Academy idea.
Yeah, so tell us how the Home Service Academy got started. Like, what was your thought process behind it all?
Oh my gosh.
Because I will give you the credit for it.
Thank you, Emily. We could not find flipping technicians. We were just exasperated with, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We need more people. Because Trey plunges forward like a freight train. Like, y'all better figure it out because our goal is $10 million this year. And I'm like, we need 142 people. In my mind, it felt like. And so I remember thinking, okay, think, Crystal, think, like, what are we going to do? And literally one day I was just like thinking to myself, like, man, I wish people knew how good what a good career this is, especially where we live. How this is a career path where you can make real legitimate money.
Yes.
And you can support your whole family by working here if you'll just do the steps that we've put out for you. And so I was like, man, it's just a career change. Well, it like literally gave me this flashback moment of when I first met my husband. He was working at the state school, which is a school here in East Texas for mentally handicapped. He was working there, and he and I were, talking, dating, whatever you want to call it. And he told me one day, man, I've always wanted to be a police officer. Well, again, because I grew up in you can be anything you want to be. What do you want to be? I said, well, so why are you not going through the police academy? So he went through police academy. He gets deployed to Iraq as a member of the Texas National Guard, serves 18 months on mission Operation Iraqi Freedom. And then he comes back and he's like, hey, I'm going to go for this police officer thing again. I've already done with school. Gets hired on at Lufkin PD. He's working there a couple of years, and he comes to me. He's like, you know what I really want to do? I want to go to DPS Academy. And I was like, excuse me, a state trooper? Like, what? We're just a glutton for punishment. Like, everybody you want to be in all the gas chambers. You want to get shot at. Like, okay, But I remember thinking, like, this is a career change, like DPS Academy. So we went through this rigorous hiring process to even see if he was going to get accepted to being a state trooper. And I mean, we had to have background checks, and he had to go through all these personal interviews, credit checks, all these things. And we were just like sitting there just praying, like, please let us get the letter that he made it into the school. He made it into the school, and we cheered, and we had parties and everything. And so I was sitting there like, that is pretty sneaky. They tricked me into all DPS was like, we're hiring, right?
Yeah.
All they were doing was hiring.
Yeah.
But they had shown the value of the career path. And all of a sudden, it just came back to me like, oh my gosh, we can do this same thing. And so instead of now hiring, we are now enrolling. You now apply to be accepted into our program. And we celebrate. We take time to do the best we can to vet who's going into the program, set clear expectations. But then more than anything, we have a graduation. We celebrate those people. One of the biggest things I remember, when you graduate from DPS Academy at the time, so Ray was class B7 or something like that. So he graduated in 2009. He got to take his picture in his full uniform that you just got because you just graduated in front of the like best DPS car, the fastest one or whatever. I mean, you took it by that, and like they handed it to you, and it was a big deal. All of my family went to Austin, and we celebrated it. And I just remember thinking, like, why is DPS any different than being a plumber or being a HVAC technician, an installer? And so I just went to train. I was like, I have this idea called like an academy. And he was like, build it out. Let me see what it looks like. Yeah. So all I did was come up with a name, and then I gave it to Emily, and she created the design. But that's literally how this was born. Is we got tired of hiring because that's not what we're doing.
No, absolutely.
We're wanting people to apply and enroll and get excited about what their future can hold.
Well, and shifting the thought process from I'm just looking for a job to like, hey, here's a career where I can be invested in and build it up and stuff. So what are the goals of the Home Service Academy? Like what's kind of the structure? Like, is it to get a tech, in the truck in 6 weeks, 6 months? What does that look like? Like, how soon are you guys, and what does that look like for plumbing also? What's kind of the structure of it?
So on the HVAC side, I'll say that realistically, in just a few of the past classes that we've had, we're currently doing a class right now. We started on Monday. We've got some really good technicians in it. Realistically, in my experience and what I've seen is, I think, and we've seen success on the HVAC side about 4 weeks. Like, if I can put a guy through this 4-week program and give him all like a good solid foundation, and then and honestly though, like how to be more effective at it is then to give him the resources on the back end. So I know for me on the HVAC side, it's not as much about, hey, this class, but just giving you here's how I go and find the information I need, or here's who I talk to, here's what I access, and then teaching the very basic fundamentals, and then all the intricacies of HVAC, which you all know that are listening. There are so many to that, and you can't ever learn every model number of every piece of equipment,
every wiring diagram,
although technicians call me and think I know them all in my head, but I'm just looking at Google. So
well, let me add a piece of clarification here. So the Home Service Academy is actually our own school.
It is.
McWilliams and Son, our own school, where we home grow talent, put them out in the field working for us.
Right.
Correct. Okay. So it's 8 weeks?
It's 5 weeks is what it is.
And that's all classroom instruction?
Yes, classroom instruction, and then we will do some field exercises on the HVAC side, go and visit some real houses and see some real attics and some real equipment. So we'll do that a little bit.
Because we do have a classroom. So this is a building, a tangible building that we have in our area there, our campus, I guess. Don't get it twisted. It's not that large, but it's so campus is a strong word. But
it's the upstairs of the warehouse.
It's the upstairs of the warehouse.
Upstairs of the warehouse.
But but up there is a classroom setting, and then what actual equipment? I know you're going to get a little nerdy here, but what actual equipment is in there that you provide access to for the HVAC side?
So we have 8 working air conditioning systems. So there's 4 heat pumps, 4 gas furnaces, and then all kinds of stuff that we've torn apart and broken apart, and old systems and things that we're looking at. So, but 8 systems is what we have that we can actually work on that are live electricity, live refrigerant, full airflow, and all of that.
And then you can make something be wrong with them?
Yep. So I've got all different kinds of bugs and things that I can put in that equipment. We'll be doing that on Monday, actually, for this group. that they have to go in and then work through and figure out what the problem is, and that's kind of part of their grade, if you will, in the class. That's how well they work through that and do that.
To me, that's so much what I love and admire about the Home Service Academy, is because kind of the philosophy behind this is like, we can teach anybody the trade and the skill of it, but what's hard to teach people is like the good work ethic and the positive attitude and things like that. So like, if you can attract those people that have that right mindset, we'll teach you the skill of it. Here, we have the Home Service Academy with this whole lab and our trainers and things like that. But it helps you to find those good quality, hardworking people and pull them from other career fields, if you will, because we'll teach you the skill set that you need for that part. But that, to me, that just helps you attract the right talent, and we're going to give you the resources to make it happen.
Yeah, like for me, the way I see it, like plumbing's a lot different in ways. Yeah. The idea behind what we do is all the same. You know, you hire attitude over aptitude, and you really focus hard on that. And then whenever you bring them in, they're someone who is naturally going to be good for being in front of the customer. And then I have to teach them the other things, all the things about plumbing. Now, the problem with the in-field training, like it has been for so many years, is that you're subjected to whatever task or whatever job that you're on at that time. And in plumbing, you could be like in large commercial construction, and you could be doing one small portion of a plumbing system for a year, 2 years even, and never touch the other facets, the other variables of plumbing. And so you are subjected to a small portion of what plumbing actually is. Yeah. Whereas in our training, we can be objective about what you learn. And we can objectively let you learn a little bit about everything in plumbing. Yeah.
Expose them
to all of that. Yeah.
Because, you know, there's a lot to be said. Like, sometimes you can't really learn real deep information until you start doing it. Yeah. So you're out there in real life application. So
most people learn that way. Like, they're visual or have to do hands-on. Like, that's the vast majority of people.
Yeah, so the real strategy here is you give, like Andrew said, you give them the resources. You've hired the right people with the right attitudes, like you said, and now we're rocking and rolling towards, we're going to expose you to as much in an organized manner as we can. Yeah. We're going to give you tools. We're going to put you in predicaments where you can work yourself out of it. But then so y'all do some ride-alongs? How does that piece work?
Yeah, so essentially for us it's 5 weeks of 45 minutes in classroom setting, 45 minutes in the shop, where they complete tasks based out of the sandbox of our operating system, which is Service Titan. That way that they learn in Service Titan and they're learning plumbing as well. They're going through real life situations and that, and then so it's 45 minutes of shop, 45 minutes of class, and then they go through 3 weeks of ride-alongs. They're riding with a technician in the field. They're showing them this and that. Now, plumbing, we're limited by the state in certain areas. For instance, the moment that they're onboarded, they get their apprenticeship card. We can get that within seconds online. And then by the time they're done with their class, we can have them do their affidavit, which is a test, essentially, for them to become a limited drain clearer. And then we can have them do another affidavit for them to be able to repair leaks out in the yard. Which that takes a big brunt of the workload off, but it's also high revenue producers, all of those drains and little leaks and stuff like that. And then it frees up our licensed plumbers to be able to do the more technical stuff like water heaters, so on and so forth.
Because in our state, in Texas, so we operate in Texas, how long before you're a licensed plumber?
2 years before you can become a tradesman, which is a limited licensed plumber, allowing you to build houses. Okay. 4 years you become a journeyman. 8 years to be a master.
So, ideally, like that was one of the struggles. So HVAC, 20 minutes and we can have you doing most things.
Yeah. We could hire Emily tomorrow and put her in a van and send her on an AC call.
Yes. Now, a plumber, for him to have any sort of authority on a job would be 8 years of a master plumber.
Well, yeah, but so those little loopholes the state allows for you to get around by getting your limited drain clearing endorsement allows you to be able to take someone that's an apprentice, put them through a little class like this, get the affidavit filled out, and then they're a drain clearer. And also what's being voted on right now by the board is they are bringing into question what is supervision. Because right now, you can have as many apprentices working for you as you want to, as long as they're supervised by a licensed personnel. Well, what is supervision? Because today, in today's day and age, we have body cams, we have audio feeds. We have all kinds of supervision. Your
Teletech?
Teletech.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're bringing that into question right now. And if that bill passes, then Teletech would qualify as a form of. And so really we're just kind of getting ahead of the game at McWilliams and Son, because essentially that's where it's going.
Yeah.
It's going to go to that.
Cool.
And we're already ahead of the game.
Awesome. Okay. So I know we kind of talked about, like Emily said, like the goals of the academy. So pretty much, Andrew, you can have a maintenance tech on the road in his or her, because we got the girl. We got girl plumbers. We got girl HVAC techs. We're on a roll here in East Texas. Yeah. So how fast can you have someone in a truck running maintenance calls?
5 weeks.
5 weeks. So 5 weeks from the moment they enter training, they pretty much be in their own truck. They've graduated. We're celebrating them. They have some ongoing things that you put them through, but for the most part, they're on their own for maintenance.
We bring them back. With HVAC, there's some seasonality more so than with plumbing, and so you have cooling season, you have heating season. So every technician that works at McWilliams and Son, all old and new, will come through kind of a cooling refresher and a heating refresher, which we can do right up in our lab, and the same kind of problems and stuff. And
then we also do performance-based refresher courses. So
for sure,
if they have too many recalls on a certain type of certain task that they're doing, callbacks, recalls, then we will bring them back in for more poignant class.
Okay, and then you can have a plumber as a drain clearer in those same 5 weeks.
Yes, I can. We do try to give them a little bit more well-roundedness so that they're at least able to address a little bit of everything and know who to send if it's not something that's up their purview. You see, but yes, so I try to get them done within 5 weeks. Normally, it's 5 to 8.
Okay. So that's I think that's important that everybody understand. And then I mentioned something that I wanted to also put out there, because this does make a difference in being able to put people in trucks and get new team members rolling quicker. The main reason for that is to get them making money quicker.
Absolutely.
To get them, feeling productive, smoother, but also we're protecting our customers as well. So we have the program called Teletech, which is basically how do y'all describe it?
I just describe it as it's our in-house tech support. So all of you listening have probably talked to tech support, and maybe you talked to them today, and that's aggravating, and sometimes it's frustrating, and most of the time you have to wait forever for that to happen. And so we brought that in-house. We have a guy who's just sitting and ready to provide that tech support. We have a phone system that they call him. He doesn't answer. It rolls to me, then it rolls to another of our guys, and so they're well taken care of.
But also in Teletech, like, you guys have visuals, like, on what they're looking at and stuff, right, too. And, like, also you can communicate and show them, like, hey, you need to put this here so that they can see it too, more so than just having to tell them over the phone, right?
We do utilize some video software that allows us to connect with their phone and kind of put our hands in their screen and share images and circle images and all that kind of stuff. So there's
super cool.
Some neat technology there too.
Super cool. Okay, and then so let's get a little bit. So I love the conceptualization of like how it works, right? But for those people that are like, but how do you do it, Andrew? Like, tell us how you get somebody. Jared, how do you really get somebody? So if you had to tell us a little bit about, tell us, and I know y'all mentioned 45 minutes here and there, but like, what are like some of the key things that you guys make sure you cover? Maybe what is the difference in what I'm learning in the classroom versus what I'm learning in the lab?
On the HVAC side, we're very intentional about, again, same thing with plumbing is, the why behind everything. And so if I understand why it works, no matter what it is, no matter what piece of equipment is or whatever it may be that I'm working on, I can go work on it. And so understanding the fundamentals of how it all works. And so in HVAC, we spend big majority of the first couple of weeks talking about the electrical side of things. And so the very basic fundamentals of electricity and how electrons move and all that, like we talk about a lot of that. But then we just spend a bunch of time annoyingly repetitive on the questions I'm asking and going over again and again and again on how this works and what voltage should you have here and what should you have here. again, just that repetitiveness of the very, very, very basics, so that then if I were to throw any piece of equipment or any little part to them, if they understand the basics of that electricity, then I can work on that part. And then we spend a ton of time like working on diagrams. So a lot of you know that that's probably one of the biggest pain points for new technicians is learning how to read wiring diagrams. And so we literally, I have these diagrams. Emily helped me make those diagrams up I put together a diagram of the equipment that we have in our lab. It's multiple diagrams on one page, and we literally take our dry erase markers and we trace out each circuit, and we do that over and over and over and over again. And then I say, okay, stop. What if you have voltage here? What if you have voltage here? And we do that on our own diagram, and we figure that out. And so, like, I will say by the end of class, usually the guys coming out of the academy are if they're not good at anything else, they're very good at reading wire diagrams.
But you because you helped create the actual curriculum. I mean, you curated the curriculum. And so if I remember correctly, because this has been a little bit ago now, because over a year now.
Over a year.
Yeah. I remember, my thought was, and I had gone to a training with Service Nation, and someone else had said, I just picked the 5 biggest calls that we go on, and that's what I make sure they're trained on, and I send them on their own. And I remember thinking, I understand, though, thinking through, what are the main things that we're going to see? Because what we would need to train on here in Texas is not what people would need to train on in Virginia, right? Or in Washington State. So there's a difference there. So what we train on is very specific to where we're going to be working. There's no sense. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but when you say it out loud, we have common problems, common issues that we can pretty much equip our people to be able to go out and at least address the basic problems, the most common problems. And is that fair? Is that is that what your mentality was when you were building out the curriculum?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I really just talk about 4 key things, like the electrical side of it, the refrigerant side of things, airflow, and then condensation. And we spend a lot of times, for East Texas, condensation. Along with that is how do we deal with humidity? And it's so hot and humid here. And so sweating ductwork and mildew, and we don't say mold, but
we don't say mold. Nobody say mold.
Growing and all of that kind of stuff. How do we deal with that and combat that through, how the air conditioner performs? So yes, very much so. And then, just a side note on that too is throughout class as well, I had one of our technicians, our current technicians in there yesterday. I encourage all of our current technicians that anytime you have some downtime, come hang out at the lab. And so it's and we will, and y'all know I'm doing it right now probably, but I love to chase a rabbit. And so I love that though in class. I get guys to come up and they start, and I just say, hey, tell us about your story, and how kind of the same thing we did on the intro. They introduce themselves, tell the story, and then I'll say, hey, what's a recent problem you dealt with? And they just bring up their problem, and then I go, okay, let's dissect it.
Yeah.
Right? It's a real life deal. And then there have been times where we're okay, let's go down to the lab and simulate it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we can go break stuff, and we can go make stuff do weird things. And so having that real life, this is an issue our guy saw earlier this morning.
Yeah.
Let's go simulate it right now.
But on top of that, it's not, whoever if say you were thinking of going into starting an HSA, a home service academy, or your own little class, the people you pick to be your instructors, just like for y'all, a community marketer is now being called a brand ambassador, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if that's the case, then your HSA, your home service academy instructor, would be your brand enforcement agency.
Yes.
They're your brand creator. Because brand is so much more than just the way it looks.
Jared, amen. You're preaching to the choir.
Jared, you need to work at Lemon Seed?
Jared, yeah.
It's the way you talk to customers. It's the way that you present yourself.
Jared,
it's the way.
round of
I know.
applause.
Amen.
We want a
Amen.
round of applause sound effect right here.
Right. And so that's what we teach more than anything is, Andrew and myself try our best to embody McWilliams and Son and everything we do for 5 weeks straight. And it's really hard to go through our class and come out unscathed. You're going to come out more McWilliams and Son.
Baptized
Yeah,
in
because that's who we are. We dunk
We're
you
gonna start.
in it. and that you're going to talk a certain kind of way, you're going to walk a certain way, you're going to carry yourself a certain kind of way. That is the brand.
Well, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
You know, it's a mindset. And so how many guys do y'all have going through the academy right now? How many do you have, Andrew?
I have 5 currently.
5 new HVAC techs. Do you have, or is it HVAC only or is plumbing
No,
live?
I have 3, and one of them that has 7 years experience. We take people that are already licensed and we put them through there, and just to kind of let you know how difficult our test and our curriculum actually is. Licensed plumbers only have a 60% pass rate on my test. Because yeah.
Professor Jared.
Well, it's you know, there's a lot of stuff that people don't get taught. The days of teaching like kind of died by the wayside.
Yeah.
I learned most of what I know by teaching myself and just being resourceful and going on the internet, because the old timey plumbers wouldn't share their knowledge very easily with you. They just kind of held that like that was their secret, because if I share this with you, you're going to pass me up. So I'm going to hold
that's
on
true.
to it. You know. And so a lot of it was self-taught.
So you have 3. So this is interesting to me. So you have 3 people right now. One of them I know is going to be an operator, right? A system operator, Mr. Manuel. Is he going through the academy right now?
He is. And
so he has no plumbing experience, no official plumbing experience. He's always kind of lived in the role at McWilliams and Son as
handyman.
A handyman. That's great.
Jack of all trades.
Yes, and he's wonderful, hard worker. Literally 3 days ago got his American citizenship. I mean, but he outworks the young guns. I can tell you that. Doesn't he? He's pretty,
no doubt,
pretty a hard worker. So he's going through the academy for, I'm assuming, exposure. And then what's he going to do?
So he's going to be on the install side. What we want to get is as we grow and as we scale, essentially one day we want to have Manuel go and dig all of the trenches that need dug before the plumber shows up, the other install crew, and then they'll come behind him and just knock it out, and then he'll come back at the end of the day and cover it up.
So this is designed for efficiency.
Yes.
And to also make sure that that process is very consistent.
Right, but in order for that to happen, though, I need Mr. Manuel to know what he's looking at.
Absolutely.
Not just go dig a hole.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, because otherwise you have to have a plumber go out there, line him out, and then leave, and then he digs. It's not efficient.
And I'll say this, like my dad and I were visiting, because my dad, we call him the general contractor of all things. So, but he was telling me, he said the reason that Mr. Manuel is going to be such a good person there is he's going to take care of the equipment. He's going to learn his role, and he's going to do his role, and he's very dependable, and he's just consistency is just there. And so I see now, I was curious to see how he kind of fit into this. And so the reason I bring it up is because this was something that you found somebody that had the right attitude and the right skill set. You just needed to teach them the actuals.
Right.
And so that was a way to incorporate a needed role into the Home Service Academy. And so it isn't just like we're running new people through there like cattle. Andrew mentioned before we use it for retraining and intentional training.
We use it for CSRs.
Well, you're fixing to use it. My lemon seed people want to go. My lemon seed team members are like, can we go through this introductory academy with Andrew?
We both just did that. A plumbing, like a miniature HSA for plumbing and HVAC.
I mean, it's a big deal.
Well,
really
because it's really, a lot of times the customers don't want to book yet. Like they're real resistant for some reason about booking, and so they want the CSR to answer all their questions or act like they know what they're talking about before they say
CSR's
yes.
like, ma'am, I can book you in Service Titan. That's about what I can do. You know?
Right. So, but if I can make that CSR comfortable talking about it, at least more comfortable than the client on the other end of the line, then they can.
Or honestly, even some soft like a piece of advice. Like,
but then I would also think, like, man, if the CSR knows this much information about it, like, how much is the real plumber when he actually gets out there?
Exactly right, Emily.
Everybody was knowledgeable from the get-go. But even little things like, this is embarrassing, but y'all can just laugh at me if you want to. I mean, Andrew's had to fix my garbage disposal at my house. Me and my husband both looking at him. But where's your water shutoff valve? Like, there's water going everywhere. And the CSR being able to say, like, it's almost like a 911 operator, like, hey, let's start with a couple of things. Here's how we turn your water off. Here's what we need to do about your gas lines or whatever, you know. So, again, to Emily's point, though, the customer journey is the first point of the customer journey, I guess. The first point of contact, that's the word I was looking for, is that CSR. That CSR is powerful. So I'm excited to hear that y'all have incorporated that. Yeah, that y'all have incorporated that. So
our booking went up 10% on plumbing.
Yep.
Like almost immediately after the class.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
well, I'm telling you, but honestly, the CSRs are probably hungry for it. Like, I have no idea. What is this client even? What is this, customer even saying? So
And I walked in the CSR room just 3 days ago, and one of them was like, "Hey, Andrew, somebody mentioned this. What is that?" And so I grabbed a dry erase marker and we just had a little lesson.
of course
right
you did,
there.
Andrew.
But they all loved it. Like,
Yes.
it was really good. And they were like, "Oh, that answers so many questions
So many.
right there." So
Yeah.
they're hungry for it.
They are
for
the
sure.
hungriest people at
Yeah.
at our company, and I
Yeah.
would say that's probably the same goes true for all companies. Your CSRs are hungry. They really want.
They want
to-
some responsibility.
They want that responsibility, and you should give it to them.
Yeah.
You know?
So you have 3 plumbers. One had 7 years of experience. So did they see an ad out for Home Service Academy? Is it somebody that you knew? Like, how did this person come about?
Yeah, as it stands right now, we put out ads as well,
Yeah.
but we also like geo fence.
Yes, good job. Geofence.
Yep.
that thing.
Yeah, and a lot of times what we try to do is kind of target the wives in a relationship, because they're the ones that have that little, hey, get your butt out and go over and talk to McWilliams and Son.
You've been complaining about
Yeah.
where you work or whatever.
Right, so we're geofence places where they're at, and then that kind of just brings the
Cool.
But if they want to come too, because we have Joycey, the more the merrier. It can
Yeah,
be.
Joycey is our female plumber.
Yeah.
So you have Mr. Manuel going through the academy learning the machine. You have the 7-year plumber, and then you have a brand new guy that just wants to be a plumber.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you're able to train all 3 of them, though, at the same time, because the curriculum is designed for.
It's just like Andrew said. It's based upon the why.
Mm-hmm.
If we can understand the why, like the fact that Pauli exclusion principle says that no two objects can occupy the same space at the same time, and whenever water goes into a pipe, it creates a positive charge and then a negative charge behind it. Need an event for it to balance those things out. Like, this is the why.
Yeah.
And if you can learn that, then you can start to diagnose problems with plumbing systems, because you understand why it's acting this way or that way, or gurgling in this sink, and so on and so forth. And so that's what we teach, is we teach that why.
So theory.
Yeah,
A lot of theory.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, Andrew, so you have 5. Is that what you said?
Yep.
All brand new to the trades?
No. I have 3 installers
Oh, okay.
in this class and 2 service techs.
Okay.
My 2 service techs are 19 and 51.
Interesting.
Big dynamic there. The 19-year-old went to work right out of high school. 51-year-old did 26 years in the prison system. He wasn't in prison. He worked in the
Oh, okay.
prison
Well,
system.
that's always
Thank
good.
you for clarifying.
He worked in the prison system, and then retired, and then said, "I want to keep working." He put himself through another trade school down in Houston, and then kind of got hooked up with our company, and so we said we're going to send him through this class, and so he has some of that trade school knowledge too, and so with him it's trying to give him some real world. Hey, he does understand a lot of the theory really well, but here's here's what that looks like.
Yeah.
And so with him, and then the installers, one of them is a lead guy, and then the other are what we would call helpers or
Assistants, yeah.
assistants or
Yeah.
installer twos or whatever. And so, and they have a little bit of experience, enough to I kind of know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
but I don't quite get it. And so it's.
Well, this sounds like a great group.
Yeah,
Sounds like a great group.
it's been
So
fun.
are you structured similar to the way that his class is structured, as far as what we had talked about with just, how you structure your training? So y'all are training at the same time.
Yeah.
So y'all have to kind of coordinate that dance of who's going to be where, when, and all of that, correct?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
It works. We work pretty well together in that, like the shared space.
Yeah, because there's 2 sides.
Yeah.
So I have my
So
own side.
tell us about your training area. What, like Andrew mentioned, his equipment. What all do you have set up in the training lab and the hands-on
So,
lab?
In the hands-on lab, I have every single fixture that you can have. Now, they might be basic, but I have every fixture that you can have inside of a household. I have it ran underneath the little mini house that's in the training area, and it's all ran on one side of the mini house. There is a drape or a divider down the middle of that, and that way they can crawl underneath there and they can plumb it from scratch, the underneath. They can plumb the walls and all the revents, and they can run all the water all by themselves. And so they learn all the way through. Now, you can also, I have a clean out on the end of every line, and what that clean out essentially is used for is we shove toilet paper with a broomstick in there and create a stoppage. and then they have to go inside and diagnose the stoppage, figure out which fixture stopped up, and then they'll decide from there what machine, what electric eel they'll need to use, and then they'll go ahead and grab that machine and they'll root it out, and then it'll send it all the way to this little trap that I've created that catches the debris of the toilet paper, and then we throw that away and stop something else up.
Yep.
They take apart every...
That sounds exhilarating.
Yeah, they take apart every single fixture, from shower valves, lavatory faucets, toilets. They take all of it apart and put it all back together. They take tankless water heaters all apart, put them all back together, diagnose every single part of them, from the flow switch to the control boards, to the temperature switchers, sensors, to the mixing valves that squirt water back into it. They learn how it works from the beginning to the end, so they can explain to the customer how a tankless water heater is more efficient than a tank type. Like, they learn, like I said, a little bit about everything. And I've been, like I said before, I've been plumbing for 20 years. I would say that they come out of this in 5 weeks with the same knowledge that someone else would gain after a year and a half in the field, plus some. That plus some is the fact that they know code, is the fact that they know the theory. They know these things that people in the field do not know, like how to do a rolling offset formula and do the trigonometry it takes to do that. They know how to do that. Like, they know all of the code way better than anybody has been doing it for a year and a half, 2 years. They will pass all their tests.
Yep.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Well, Andrew and Jared, we have loved hearing so much about the Home Service Academy. We could probably do another whole episodes on how we hire and how we market.
There's so much more to this.
There's so much more to it. I just think that just to give credit where credit's due, you two guys have been the reason that it's been successful. So coming up with ideas is easy. That's what I do every day. But people, implementers and doers are, and just on a family note, like, thank y'all for being so dedicated to the brand and to what we try to stand for as much as we can in the world is the way that it stands. And so I appreciate you guys fighting for our team to have, I always say all the time, if we can make happy moms and dads and husbands and wives, and it changes the whole dynamic of the culture.
And
so
that's where our passion is what we love more than anything, is to see that person's life change to where their kids came in wearing some hand-me-downs at the beginning, and the next thing you know, they're in all new clothes and they're going to church, and we've impacted them as a person, not only as someone,
as a plumber, absolutely.
We spend the whole half of the first day not talking about anything technical. Jared and I just get up there and preach, basically. Like, really about like how we do the right thing and we take care of the customer, and like
honesty.
And I said it probably 12 times that day. I was like, I know this day's real touchy-feely, but we're going to work on some stuff eventually. But in everything that we do on the technical side is we
teach them how to be a servant leader.
Yes, amen. Yeah.
And we want them to be a servant leader, because someone's got to take Andrew's spot one day, right?
Yeah. Amen. So.
Alrighty, well, thank you guys for sharing all your knowledge and expertise. I mean, I kind of feel like we might need to have a part 2 to this episode.
I know. I will say this. We will have in the download section, Rachel, our podcast person, she will have all of our, we have a video where Andrew's kind of showing his way through the Home Service Academy, and we have some pictures and things like that. We will make those available for you to go on and watch and see and have access to, so people can actually see in real life what the Home Service Academy looks like. And then maybe we'll have a part 2 of this on how we market, how we hire, and the true celebration.
Yeah, your listeners can vote on that. They can vote on a part 2 or not.
Oh, yes.
Well, before we jump off here, Andrew and Jared, any final words for a contractor, maybe someone listening to this, any words of encouragement, final thoughts?
The biggest thing is we've got to, we just had the Lemon Seed annual conference here, and so got to meet and visit with a few of those guys, have been on the phone with a few of those guys after the fact to kind of talk about, kind of where to start on that. And what I've told those guys is just you guys have the knowledge and have done it. Like, just start being intentional about teaching, whether that be in a weekly meeting, whether that be in, like, I know when I was a young service manager and then started hiring some of my own young detectives, every single chance I got to talk to those guys wasn't just shooting the bull. It was, what'd you work on? Okay, do you understand that? Like, just dig a little deeper into every conversation that you have and just be very intentional about those conversations that I have at work, and try to find those teachable moments all the time. Look for them.
Yeah.
And for me, I would just say, the time is now. I mentioned it about my grandfather being in the trade and driving new trucks, and everything's went up, and what hasn't is the wages. The time is now. Plumbers, HVAC, and electricians should be living their best life, and that doesn't mean they have to own a company to do it. If you own a company, then you inherited the dreams, the hopes, the aspirations of every person that you employ. Yep. And they want to be able to take their kids to college if they want to send them to college. They want to be able to do common things, and they should be able to, because it's a skilled trade. Not everyone can do it. And then on top of that, it takes really good people to do it and do it well.
Amen.
So don't look at the person next to you as to what you should charge. Charge what you know you're worth, and pay your guys the right amount, because the time is now for us to live our best life.
Yep.
Amen.
Wow.
Well, we're going to end on those little two preachers in here.
I know, we did.
We had a whole revival in here. So thank you guys for listening to another episode of From the Yellow Chair.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, if you consider writing a review and giving us a follow, we would love to hear it. So, as always, thanks for sipping some lemonade.
We'll see you next time.